Hello and welcome to our webinar, Middle Grade Trends. I'm Julia Smith, Senior Editor, Books for Youth at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a selection for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon at the bottom of the toolbar mentioned above. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Caitlin Rubenstein, Senior Manager, Children's School and Library at Workman Publishing, Lisa Desaro, Executive Director, Marketing at Clarion Books, Lauren Wengrovitz, Marketing Associate at Clarion Books, Mary Van Aken, Director of Publicity at Macmillan Children's Publishing Group, Elise Levine, Director of Sales and Marketing at Shadow Mountain Publishing, Melissa Bounty, Associate Manager at Choose Your Own Adventure, Dottie Green, Marketing Manager at Choose Your Own Adventure, and Bart King, author of Time Travel In from Choose Your Own Adventure. First, we'll hear from Caitlin Rubenstein. Caitlin lives in Waldwick, New Jersey, with her 1-year-old son, Ellis, and husband, Eric, who is a high school math teacher, and their pug, Louie. Caitlin is best described by her mother as a hokey pokey kid. She puts her whole self into everything she does. Take it away, Caitlin.
Hi, everybody. So just like you said, my name is Caitlin Rubenstein, and I'm excited to be sharing some of our juvenile selections with you today from Workman Publishing and our imprints. We have so many amazing educator guides, discussion guides, and other educational resources available for you on our website. I wanted to feature just a few of our most recent publications and the type of educational asset available here for you. But if you use the link on this page, it will direct you to our full list of assets. I also wanted to take a moment just to highlight some of our more recently published titles. Everyone's favorite Odd Couple returns in Skunk and Badger #2, Egg Marks the Spot, which has already received 2-starred reviews. All Pets Allowed is also the second book in a series of Blackberry Farm, which follows Beckett Branch. This is perfect for fans of Clementine and Ramona. The third title in favorite middle grade fantasy series, The Oddmire, Deepest Darkest, is now available. And our Edgar Award-winning middle grade cozy series, The Myrtle Hardcastle Mysteries, recently released its third book, Cold-Blooded Myrtle, as well. I didn't realize I had a whole slide of series. There you go. Award-winning author and charismatic motivational speaker Ty Allen Jackson is the author of Make Your Own Money, which takes kids on a how-to journey toward financial literacy with tips and guidance for making money and minding their own businesses. This lively, easy-to-read blueprint for financial success provides creative and practical tips for earning money by starting businesses, and even covers how to write a business plan, raise startup money, and understand profit and loss. It also teaches important economic vocabulary, such as need versus wants, goods versus services, and essential life skills for handling money, like how to open a bank account, create a budget, invest, and donate. This is an essential guide. Middle school is an essential time to learn and practice social skills, including how to get along with others, talk about hard things, be an ally, and a good friend. In What Can I Say, Catherine Newman, author of the bestseller How to Be a Person, provides supportive guidance and instruction to help kids establish and maintain meaningful relationships and effective communication with friends, teachers, family members, and others in their communities. Every page of this super useful book provides easy, accessible scripts and guidance on the right thing to say in all kinds of situations, from how to be inclusive, to listen, give advice, argue, stick up for yourself, ask for help, express sympathy, deal with offensive comments, respond to bullying, be trustworthy. So many important things. All of the 50+ scripts and tips are presented with an accessible, non-judgmental voice with graphic novel style illustrations. This is a must-have for all juvenile collections. Yep, you read that correctly. The next middle grade novel from 2017 Newbery medalist Kelly Barnhill is here, The Ogress and the Orphans. I will pause for some woots and yes that I know are happening out there in internet land. This new instant classic is about the power of generosity and love and how a community suffers when those values disappear. Stone in the Glen, once a lovely town, has fallen on hard times. Fires, floods, and other calamities have caused the people to lose their library, their school, their park, even their neighborliness. The people put their faith in the mayor, a dazzling fellow who promises he alone can help. After all, he is a famous dragon slayer. At least no one has seen a dragon in his presence. Only the clever children of the orphan house and the kindly ogress at the edge of town can see how dire the town's problems are. But when a child goes missing from the orphan house, the mayor suggests it was the ogress. The orphans know this cannot be. The ogress, along with a flock of excellent crows, secretly delivers gifts to the people of the Stone and the Glen. But how can the orphans tell the story of the ogress's goodness to people who refuse to listen? And how can they make their neighbors see the real villain in their midst? This should shoot to the top of your TBR list. It is beautifully written. It has all the fun, magic, and fantasy that you would expect from Kelly Barnhill. You can watch a message from Kelly herself chatting about the ogress and the orphans and request a digital galley from me. My email will be at the end of the slide. I cannot wait to share this with you. Someone wanted to go back to a previous slide, it says in the chat. I just want to make sure that we could do that. I think it was previous to Kelly's slide. Is that good, Isabel? Okay. On to the counterclockwise heart. Tick, tick, tick. Time is running out in the empire of Rheinbelt. The sudden appearance of a strange and frightening statue foretells darkness. The Hierophants, magic users of the highest order, have fled the land, and the shadowy beasts of the nearby hinterlands are gathering near the borders, preparing for an attack. Young Prince Alphonsus is sent by his mother, the Empress Sabine, to reassure the people while she works to quell the threat of war. But Alphonsus has another problem on his mind, including a great secret. He has a clock in his chest where his heart should be, and it's begun to run backwards, counting down to his unknown fate. Searching for answers about the clock, Alphonsus meets Esme, a Hierophant girl, who has returned to the Empire in search of a sorceress known as Nachtfrau. When riddles from their shared past threaten the future of the Empire, Alphonsus and Esme must learn to trust each other and work together to save it, or see the destruction of everything they both love. The Counterclockwise Heart will hit shelves in February 2022, and Brian Ferry's first middle grade novel, The Secret of Dreadwillow Karst, is available now. How Do You Live is the first English translation of the classic Japanese novel, a childhood favorite of anime master Hayao Miyazaki. It includes an introduction by Neil Gaiman and has already received 2-star reviews. This novel was first published in 1937. Gensubaro Yoshone's How Do You Live has long been acknowledged in Japan as a crossover for young readers. Academy Award-winning animator Hayao Miyazaki has called it his favorite childhood book and announced plans to emerge from retirement to make it the basis of a final film. How Do You Live is narrated in two voices. The first belongs to Copper, 15, who after the death of his father must confront inevitable and enormous change, including his own betrayal of his best friend. The second voice belongs to Copper's uncle, who writes to him in a journal, sharing knowledge and offering advice on life's big questions as Copper begins to encounter them. Over the course of the story, Copper, like his namesake Copernicus, looks to the stars and uses his discoveries about the heavens, earth, and human nature to answer the question of how will he live. How Do You Live is about finding one's place in a world both infinitely large and unimaginably small. Tracy Batiste is the author of one of my absolute favorite middle grade series, The Jumbies, which you can see here at the bottom of the slide. But today I'm here to share with you a new book from her. And this time it's nonfiction. African Icons introduces readers to 10 real-life kings, queens, inventors, scholars, and visionaries who lived in Africa thousands of years ago and changed the world. Honestly, this book is not just important and beautiful, but necessary. The start reviews from Kirkus and PW say it all. Kirkus states that what Batiste accomplishes in only 139 pages of narrative is near miraculous. They also called it empowering, necessary, and required reading for all, game-changing. While PW says it's an invaluable resource for years to come, be sure to add this important title to your collections today. What would you do if you turned on the faucet one day and nothing happened? What if you learned the water in your home was harmful to drink? Water is essential for life on this planet, but not every community has safe, clean water that it needs. In When the World Runs Dry, award-winning science writer Nancy Castaldo takes readers from Flint, Michigan, and Newark, New Jersey to Iran and Cape Town, South Africa, to explore the various ways in which water around the world is in danger, and why we must act now, and why you're never too young to make a difference. Topics in this book include lead and water infrastructure problems, pollution, fracking contamination, harmful algal blooms, water supply issues, rising sea levels, and potential solutions. That's it for me. Here are all the ways to reach me, and thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. We will now hear from Mary Van Aken. Mary is the Director of Publicity at Macmillan Children's Publishing Group. Take it away, Mary.
Short delay there, just having trouble finding my keys. It's so great to be chatting with all of you today. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, with that, we are ready to go. Again, my name is Mary Van Aken. I'm the Director of Publicity at Macmillan Children's Publishing Group, and I have the absolute pleasure of overseeing our school and library team. You can find us on Twitter at MacKidsSL or visit us on our website, mackidsschoolandlibrary.com. Today I'll be previewing a selection of our winter middle grade titles, but before I do so, I wanted to take a quick look back at 2021 at some of our top reviewed titles of 2021, including Gone to the Woods by Gary Paulson, Race to the Bottom of the Earth by Rebecca Barone, Cuba in My Pocket by Adriana Cuevas, and Fallout by Steve Shankin. If you have not read any of these books yet, please email me. I'd be happy to send you a review copy. My email address will be on the final slide, but just so you have it, it's mary.vanaken@macmillan.com. Okay, heading into our title presentations. I am thrilled to be introducing a brand new nonfiction imprint from Macmillan called Neon Squid. The team at Neon Squid strongly believes that the best stories in the world are the real ones. So they create beautifully illustrated nonfiction books for kids aged 6 to 12 on all sorts of topics, from animal and history to science and space. In their first list, kids will dive deep beneath the waves to discover a sunken ancient Egyptian city, undisturbed for thousands of years. They'll trek into the jungles of South America to come face to face with a tiny frog that shares its home with tarantulas, and they'll be inspired by Maria and Marjorie Tallchief of the Osage Nation, who became the first ballet superstars. They've carefully selected topics from archaeology to symbiosis that shine a light on the parts of the world kids might not be overly familiar with, but that spark an interest that could last a lifetime. These books are labors of love, written by experts, illustrated by the best artists around, and produced using the finest materials, including sustainably sourced paper. One title I'd like to highlight today is Tales of Ancient Worlds. This is an example of taking a slightly obscure subject, archaeology, and turning it into a gripping book of adventure stories. It's Neon Squid's biggest book on their list at 160 pages, and it's geared to 8 to 10-year-olds. It's packed with, with great stories, and it's inspired by Indiana Jones, and is packed with history. They've picked stories from all around the world, from abandoned pirate towns and Maya fortresses to Egyptian cities found at the bottom of the ocean. The stories flip back and forth between archaeologists making discoveries and the ancient past. So, for example, you'll see a dramatic Viking burial where they buried a woman along with an entire ship, and then jump forward in time to see what it looked like when it was dug up in the 19th century. The author is Stefan Milosavljevic, an archaeology YouTuber with a great sense of humor and a knack of highlighting parts of history often overlooked. This is the start of a series with next title on dinosaurs coming in fall 2022. Next up, we have Northwind, and I'm thrilled to be introducing a new book by Gary Paulson. Readers who love the classic classroom favorite in Newbery Honorbook Hatchet will be thrilled to have a new stunning adventure from Gary. This was inspired by a sailing trip Gary took up the West Coast from Ventura, California to Alaska, and Northwind is set on the coast of Norway centuries ago. When a deadly plague decimates his fishing village, an orphan named Leaf is forced to take to the water in a cedar canoe. He flees northward, following fjords, navigating from one danger to the next. The deeper into his journey he paddles, the closer he comes to recognizing his own strength and discovering his truest self as he connects to the heartbeat of the ocean and pulse of the landscape. As Gary explains, this is not only an adventure story, it's a story about beauty of nature, and truly a book that came from Gary's heart and soul and is inspired by his own Nordic heritage, and Norse mythology is woven throughout the story. This is our third new release from Gary within a year. Just last week, we released laugh out loud, funny, eco-friendly middle grade novel, How to Train Your Dad. And earlier this year, we published Gone to the Woods, a middle grade memoir from Gary that talks about how he became the writer he is today. Next up, we have Pilar Ramirez and the Escape from Zafar, which is possibly my most anticipated book of winter 2022. And Black and queer Dominican-American poet Julian Randall has been waiting 2 decades to write this debut. And he's writing it to help fill the silence left by the nearly 31-year dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. Following 3 decades of a brutal dictatorship between 1930 and 1961 that was filled with unexplained disappearances and a mass exodus from the Dominican Republic to the US, there is very little modern storytelling sharing cultural heritage, magic, and mythos of this place. When Julian was 8 years old, he walked in on his mother crying after she read In a Time of Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, which he describes as a story of 4 sisters who fought back against the man who drove his abuelo off the island. Now, 20 years later, Julian is launching Pilar Ramirez and the Escape from Zafar, the story of 12-year-old Pilar, who grew up on the same block as Julian in Chicago and finds herself on a mythical island of Zafar on a mission to rescue her cousin who disappeared during the Trujillo 50 years ago. This is a story about finding your power, finding your history, and finding your way back home, and is a crucial addition to the children's literature canon of fantasy adventures. This is an art in the frontispiece, which I think is just really stunning. Next up is a graphic novel by Tyler Page, who is an Eisner-nominated cartoonist and educator. His book, Raised on Ritalin, was called Essential Reading for Medical Students and those involved in helping address the challenges of ADHD. By the Journal of American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. We're thrilled to see him bringing the same dedication to representation for children with ADHD to this middle grade graphic novel memoir, Button Pusher, in which he uses his own childhood experiences to explore what it means to grow up with ADHD. From diagnosis to treatment and beyond, Tyler's story is raw and enlightening, inviting you to see the world from a whole new perspective. There are a few spreads from Button Pusher. Next up, we have Saving Earth. This is inspired by Nathaniel Rich's Losing Earth, A Recent History, the acclaimed book that grew out of an August 2018 issue of the New York Times Magazine solely dedicated to it. Saving Earth tells the human story of climate change conversation from the recent past to the present day. This is wrestling with the long shadow of our failures, what might be ahead for today's generation, and crucial questions of how we understand the world we live in and how we can work together to change the outlook for the better. Enlivened with illustrations from Tim Foley and filled with the voices of climate activists from the past and present, this book is both a call to action and a riveting dramatic history. On a very similar note, but this time in fiction prose, we have Consider the Octopus by Nora, Raleigh, Baskin, and Gabe Polzner. I first wanted to share a visual of the inspiration for this book. This is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a collection of marine debris in the North Pacific Ocean. This is estimated to be double the size of Texas, and the area contains more than 3 million tons of plastic. This is the inspiration for Consider the Octopus, which is about when chance or fate throws two 12-year-olds together on board a scientific research ship at the edge of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Above all, it's a heartfelt story about friendship and an empowering call to environmental protection, especially to our young people who are already stepping up to help us save our oceans and our Earth. I think I'm just about out of time, but hoping I can squeeze Moonwalking in. Zetta Elliott is a Black feminist writer who has been published in many mediums, including her Caldecott Honor picture book, illustrated by Noah Denman. This is A Place Inside of Me, which has received that book received many notable awards last year. Lynn Miller Lachman, her co-author on this, is an author, teacher, and librarian. As an adult, she was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and delves into her diagnosis in her writing. Moonwalking is a novel in verse for fans of Jason Reynolds and Jacqueline Woodson. It follows two boys in 1980s Brooklyn as they become friends for a season. Moonwalking is a stunning exploration of class, cross-racial friendships, and two boys' search for belonging in a city as tumultuous and beautiful as their hearts. And just getting to the end of our list, we have The Second Chance of Benjamin Waterfalls, which is the second book from James Bird, the author of The Brave. And this novel is about a boy sent to a boot camp to help straighten out his life. James's middle grade novel, The Brave, was a Book Riot Best of 2020. And he also is, he is a California native of Ojibwe descent and now lives in Massachusetts with his wife, the author and actor Adriana Mather, and their son. As Bird has proved with The Brave, this is another story with universal appeal, with a flawed but really likable character. It's perfect for fans of Holes and Greetings from Witness Protection. And finally, I have In the Key of Us from Mariama Lockington, a middle grade novel about two girls who, while grappling with grief and questions of identity, meet in summer music camp and begin a gentle romance. Mariama is a writer and nonprofit educator. She's the author of the critically acclaimed For Black Girls Like Me, her middle grade debut, which earned 5-star reviews. Like her protagonist, Mariama is a Black queer woman. Her story highlights the nuances of grief and young romance that young readers will understand and celebrate. Nicole Chung calls Mariama's writing a revelation and a gift, while Elizabeth Acevedo praises Mariama for her achingly honest and lyrically rendered storytelling. This book is perfect for fans of Jason Reynolds, Elizabeth Acevedo, Sharon Draper, and Nick Stone. So just to wrap things up, we also have a lot of continuing series in winter 2022, including more Bad Kitty, more Investigators, more Maker comics, the final book in the Train to Impossible Places series. And very notably, we have the final book in George O'Connor's beloved Olympians graphic novel series. He is wrapping this series up with Dionysus. So be on the lookout for this, and it's a great time to revisit the entire series. Again, please don't hesitate to get in touch. My email is mary.vanaken@macmillan.com, and you can also find us online at mackidsschoolandlibrary.com or at mackidsSL on Twitter. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Mary. Next up, we have Lisa Desaro and Lauren Wengrovitz. Lisa is the Executive Director of Marketing for Clarion Books. After being an elementary school teacher and a bookseller, she received her master's degree in children's literature from Simmons College, then started her publishing career at HMH Clarion. She thinks that the best part of her job is sharing great books with as many people as possible. Lauren is the marketing associate for Clarion Books. After writing for an entertainment site and working as a bookseller, she now loves being a part of Clarion's marketing team and helping readers find their books. Thanks for joining us, Lisa and Lauren. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. This is Lisa. I just wanted to start by calling out a number of our great middle grade series that are returning with new installments. Crown Heist by Darren Hicks returns us to the world of the lost art mysteries, and this time Art and Camille head to London to find themselves embroiled in a heist involving a long-dead monarch. Packed with fascinating facts about real places and pieces of art, this fast-paced thriller is perfect for fans of Spy School and the Mr. Limoncello's Library series. The Last Chance for Logan County is the third in Lamar Giles' legendary Alston Boys series and finds Otto and Sheed teaming up with the Ellison twins to take down a corporation obsessed with the weirdness of Logan County and that's turning its residents into money zombies. Maya and the Return of the Godlings. In this follow-up to Rena Barron's Maya and the Rising Dark, Maya and the Godlings must return to the sinister world of the dark to retrieve the one thing keeping the veil between worlds from crumbling, her father's soul. This one's perfect for fans of Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky and Willa of the Wood. School of Phantoms by Corey Merritt. In this spine-tingling follow-up to No Place for Monsters, the strangeness has started all over again in Cowslip Grove. Hundreds of creepy snowmen pop up across town, and it's up to a small group of student survivors, along with some supernatural helpers, to uncover the cold-hearted menace and protect their town from the monsters that are threatening to destroy it. The Vanderbeekers Make a Wish by Karina Young Glazer. In the fifth book about the hilarious Harlem family, the Vanderbeekers are on a mission to find the perfect way to celebrate their papa's birthday while discovering more about their mysterious grandparents in this heartfelt romp and latest installment in the New York Times bestselling series, perfect for fans of the Penderwicks. Sydney and Taylor and the Great Friend Expedition. This is the third entry in the Laugh Out Loud chapter book series by Lemonade War author Jacqueline Davies. It follows Hedgehog Taylor and Skunk Sydney as they set out on an adventure to make new friends, even through doubt and obstacles. With charming illustrations throughout by Deborah Hocking, this is perfect for fans of Mercy Watson and the Owl Diaries series. Now next, I'll talk about a few of our new middle grade graphic novels. Besties Work It Out. This is the first in a new series spinoff from Kayla Miller's New York Times bestselling Click series. Best friends and aspiring entrepreneurs Beth and Shanda hope the path to fashion, fame, and fortune starts with taking up as many summer jobs as two besties can find. But nothing can prepare them for a dog-sitting mishap that throws their business plan and their friendship into complete chaos. Kayla Miller and co-author Jeffrey Canino deliver a vibrant and honest story about middle school friendships and personal responsibility. Accompanied by Christina Liu's fizzy, expressive art style, this graphic novel's the perfect companion to Olive's existing stories. Up next is the New York Times bestseller Hooky, which first appeared as a serialized comic on Webtoon, the #1 app for digital comics. There, it built a very loyal following, racking up millions of views. So we're thrilled to bring Hooky into print format for the first time with exclusive new content. Hookie's a fantastical story about twin siblings, Danny and Dorian, who've missed the bus to magic school and scramble to find a mentor to teach them before their parents can find out. But thanks to a series of mishaps, they're also being chased by powerful magic families seeking the prophesied king of witches and royals searching for missing princes. But they aren't alone. With a local troublemaker, a princess, and a teacher who can see the future on their side, they might just be able to clear their names. But can they heal their torn kingdom? This one is perfect for fans of the OK Witch and the 5 Worlds series, and we'll have 2 more installments in the Hooky series coming. Up next is the sequel to Dynamite by Doug Paleo, illustrated by Aaron Blecka. In Heist Age, Dinotown is under attack and the Dynamites face new icy villains led by Bully Mammoth. This colossal meanie will stop at nothing to get his grubby tusks on the world's most valuable painting, the Dino Lisa, even if it means putting a deep freeze on Dinotown. How will the Dynamites outsmart and ice out Bully and his big bad crew and manage to save their hometown along with the most precious piece of art in the whole world? You'll have to read and find out. This one is just right for any kid who loves outrageous and zany humor paired with action-packed adventure. Now over to Lauren.
Thanks, Lisa. From Cybert Medal winner Catherine Timish and Caldecott Honor winner Melissa Sweet, we have Girls Solve Everything. Women all over the globe are asking questions and creating businesses that answer them, like, can we keep premature babies warm when they're born far from the hospital? Or can the elderly stay in their homes and eat a balanced diet? Women are taking on and solving these issues. How do they get their ideas? Where does their funding come from? And how have some of these businesses touched your life? Girls Solve Everything answers these questions, inspiring today's kids to learn from entrepreneurs and take on some of the world's biggest problems. This is the follow-up to Girls Think of Everything. Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round is a deeply moving memoir about what it means to be an everyday activist, as Kathleen recounts how she went from attending protests as a teenager to fighting for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday to become a national holiday. A blueprint for kids starting down their own paths, it shows life beyond protests and details the sustained time, passion, and energy it takes to turn an idea into a law. Fossil Hunter is a fascinating biography of Mary Anning, the Victorian fossil hunter who changed scientific thinking about prehistoric life and became one of the most celebrated paleontologists of all time. With engaging text, photographs, and stunning paleo art, Fossil Hunter introduces this self-taught scientist, now recognized as one of the greatest fossilists the world has ever known. It's perfect for children learning about women scientists like Ada Lovelace, Jane Goodall, and Katherine Johnson. Welcome to 2048. Every graduate of the BEST program can receive a bionic enhancement as a rite of passage in this inclusive series. 11-year-old Ace Wells's dream has finally come true. He's a new cadet in the BEST Biological Enhancement Systems Technology program. Ace knows he can make his mark on the world with super soar wings, but on day one, nothing goes as planned. It becomes clear that Ace is not prepared to fly in any sense of the word. As tensions build, Ace suspects there's something more going on at BEST. Will he ever make it to graduation and get the AUG of his dreams? Join Ace and find out as he tests his strength and grit in this page-turning middle grade adventure. 5th grader Jillian will do just about anything to blend in. After she loses a classroom competition because she won't speak up, she sets her mind on winning her school's biggest competition. But breaking out of her shell is easier said than done, and Jillian has only a month to keep her promise to her grandmother and prove she can speak up and show everyone her true self. Just Right Jillian is a warm and relatable debut novel about family, friendship, and finding the confidence to be yourself. After failing a school eating test, picky eater Minerva is placed in the lowest eating track of all, remedial eating to change habits. Brett's class is full of kids with weird personalities and even weirder food preferences. And to make matters worse, Minerva's best friends in the gifted and gourmet class no longer speak to her. But soon Minerva finds that she is not alone in her pickiness and forms friendships with her new classmates. And together they find a way to stand up for themselves, picky and proud. Hannah Mulfer Adler is Jew-ish. Not that she really thinks about it. She'd prefer to focus on her favorite pastime, baking. But when her best friend has a beyond awesome bat mitzvah, Hannah starts to feel a little envious and a little left out. Despite her parents' firm no, Hannah knows if she can learn enough about her own faith, she can convince her friends that the party is still in motion. As secrets mount, a few are bound to explode. And when they do, Hannah learns that being Jewish isn't about having a big party and a fancy dress. Most importantly, Hannah realizes the only person's permission she needs to be Jewish is her own. New from Mary Downing Hahn, the queen of tween screens. Zoe loves spending the summer with her Aunt Alice, and her aunt's new house is the perfect place to cozy up with a book. But she's unnerved by the overgrown forest next door. Worse, there are rumors in town of a dark force in those woods, and Zoe can't deny the wild black cats who live there seem to be watching her. When she encounters a mean old woman who claims to be their owner, Zoe realizes there's more to the cats than meets the eye. But little does she know, the closer she comes to discovering their secret, the more danger she's in. 12-year-old Gabe doesn't know where he belongs anymore. In a desperate plea for attention, Gabe sets off fireworks in the woods near his house and causes a small forest fire. In the chaos of the destruction, a coyote named Rill finds herself far from home. Gabe and Rill's paths irrevocably cross when Gabe is tasked with cleaning up the forest through the court's restorative justice program. The damage to the land and both their lives is beyond what the two can imagine. But together they discover sometimes it takes only one friend to find the place where you belong. Newbery medalist Avi explores the American Revolution from a fresh perspective and loyalty. When his father is killed by rebel vigilantes, Noah flees with his family to Boston. Intent on avenging his father, Noah becomes a spy for the British. Awash in contradictory information and participating in key events leading to the American Revolution, Noah must forge his own understanding of right and wrong and determine for himself where his true loyalty truly lies. Thank you so much for listening and learning about our upcoming middle grade titles. You can access our digital arcs at the link in the presentation. Feel free to email us if you have questions, and don't forget to follow us on social media.
Thank you so much, Lisa and Lauren. Our next panelist today is Elise Levine. Elise is Director of Sales and Marketing for Shadow Mountain Publishing and is a veteran book publishing professional who has worked on a wide range of books from Nickelodeon to Nancy Drew Mysteries to the Art and Shakespeare. She left New York City to move west to join Shadow Mountain Publishing. Take it away, Elise.
Okay, thank you, Julia. You can request ERCs of our new titles on NetGalley and Edelweiss. Edelweiss has a lot more backlist titles available, and if you see an older title without a review copy option, feel free to email me and I can easily and happily activate it for you. The Legend of the Dream Giants is a middle grade hybrid format of a full novel plus 120 graphic novel style illustrations. It's the story of Berg. When he was very young, his mother hid him in a cave and led an angry mob of villagers away, sacrificing her own life to protect her son. In all the years since, Berg has lived alone. The only reminders of his family are his mother's satchel and his recurring dreams of a white bear representing his mother, who comforts him and guides him through life's challenges. And these dreams are conveyed without words by the illustrations as you see on the screen. When he feels lonely, he will risk entering a village to trade a forest trinket for food. He's really searching for kindness and a friend. But with every attempt he makes, people only see his massive size and cruelly chase him away. I'd like to read you 2 sentences to give you a flavor of the highly emotive writing style. This is from chapter 1. Berg ran with all his might, his feet bounding the earth as he fled toward the deep wild woods. He knew the people of Sleeping City would soon follow with their pitchforks and torches and pointed sticks. Berg cried as he ran, not because he was afraid of the people, but because the people were afraid of him. This is middle grade fantasy, but it's also in our empathy building titles catalog, and it's a great read-alike for kids who enjoyed The One and Only Ivan. Dragon Watch by Brandon Mull is the #1 New York Times bestselling series and the sequel series to Fablehaven. Return of the Dragon Slayers, the finale, is out later this month. Legend of the Dragon Slayer is a companion title and a visual discovery of the first ever origin story of Dragon Watch. It also has character insights from the author. Just published, Champion's Quest is the new fantasy series about a bunch of kids who see a weird curiosity shop in town, and the window display proves far too tempting. So they go in to explore, and that transports them straight to a role-playing game, something like Dungeons and Dragons, where they have to overcome their real-world vulnerabilities to outplay their game foes. It has plenty of intense action as they battle, but there's also fun, oddball characters, which reminded me of Willy Wonka, which adds a lighter note to the gameplay. The main characters are racially and ethnically diverse and represent a wide range of life experiences. The 2 boys are foster kids living in a group home, and one struggles with panic attacks. The author, Frank L. Cole, says a main theme of the book is that life has many hard challenges, but at the same time, it wasn't all bad. It also had great moments. Missing Oakley is about two sisters, one their parents' favorite and the other feels unheard. When Oakley dies in a tragic accident, Phoebe is overwhelmed with grief and scared. She lies about how the accident happens and confronts an eyewitness who thinks Phoebe pushed her sister into the river, causing her death. The story, told in first person from Phoebe's perspective, explores dealing with overwhelming feelings and loss and the impact of secrets kept, lies told, and finding your own voice. And there's a very timely subtheme about how even an eyewitness account can be misleading and inaccurate. This is a young reader's adaptation of The Rent Collector by Cameron Wright, a best-selling title, which is very popular with book clubs and community-wide reading programs. It's based on a true story about a woman who lives in severe poverty at a city dump in Cambodia, scratching out basic subsistence by sifting through trash for recyclables and things which can be repaired and sold. In the story, it says all her worldly possessions could be held in her two hands. The rent collector is a woman who everyone hates, but our protagonist learns the rent collector can read, and she begs to be taught, and the rent collector reluctantly agrees. As our protagonist begins to read, she realizes there's a whole world outside the dump, and that gives her hope that she can one day have a brighter future. As the women read together, they bond. We learned of the rent collector's tragic past under the atrocities of the Khmer Rouge, and we see the power of literacy to connect people by sharing experiences. Trusting True North takes place during a pandemic as a girl is separated from her mother when the border closes, and her father is a nurse who is busy at the hospital with people sick from the virus. Because everyone is so distracted by the virus, our protagonist reasons she must figure out how to solve all of her problems, which unfold right along with the pandemic. This is a timely topic and one which balances a real health crisis as people in the neighborhood are hospitalized with the virus, and the also very real mental health issues of feeling scared, isolated, and not heard. A Child of God conveys a comforting message from Black parents to their children who see visual representations of their Christian faith, but question what it means when they don't see their skin color, their physical features, or their gender portrayed. In soothing verse, the father reminds his children that pictures of faith such as angels were drawn by someone, and encourages his children to draw their own pictures so angels look like all of us. This is a gentle but highly impactful way to introduce how pervasive lack of representation is in our culture and how it affects the BIPOC community. Even though it refers to their Christian faith, there's no scripture in the text. This is a look at some of our recent titles. You'll see a lot of state award nominees and winners on this list. Let me just highlight Real, which is based on the true story of one of the co-authors, Peyton Goddard. It's about a girl with non-speaking autism who wants to go to public school and must overcome the challenges and objections of students and their parents who don't understand autism and want her sent away to a special ed school. There's a PDF tips for inclusion from the authors, which you can find on Edelweiss. Shadow Mountain is a clean content publisher for our kids and YA titles, and you can imagine the challenge of doing YA with no drugs, no violence, no sex, and no foul language. But our characters and stories don't represent some utopian world of goodness. They're teens in the real world, experiencing at times overwhelming emotional pain. Paul, Big and Small shows the drastic consequences of bullying as the school deals with the suicide of the kid who is the bully and is told from the perspective of his victim. Waiting for Fitz is an own voices story and features a cast of teens living in a psych ward with a spectrum of mental health challenges, trying to figure out who they are and how they can fit in when society labels them and constantly judges them as being different and being damaged. What the other three don't know is about 4 teens, each playing a role in high school, but each harboring a secret. On a dangerous river rafting trip, they will confront their fears, drop their social masks, and realize they can finally be true to themselves. New in nonfiction, these are adult titles, but suitable for younger readers. The genesis of why we fought is a question many readers of nonfiction, myself included, always ask ourselves when we're reading about World War II. What would I have done in the same circumstance? These are 7 largely untold stories to illustrate that World War II was fought on front lines far beyond conventional battlefields. Some were ordinary citizens like William Siebold, a German immigrant after World War I, and a US citizen by World War II. When he was coerced by the Gestapo into becoming a spy in America, He instead approached the FBI and offered to become a double agent. His efforts successfully helped bring down a dangerous German spy network that was dedicated to stealing industrial secrets and sabotaging America on home soil. This history is in itself a civics lesson in how citizens have defended democratic values. Some backlist nonfiction, we tend to do untold stories, which also show the human side of conflict. The three titles to the left are short chapters with microbiographies of people who were swept up in a historical event. The title on the right, She Stood for Freedom, is the true story of a white Southern teenager who faced the hostility of her parents and neighbors to join the civil rights movement by participating in lunch counter demonstrations and protests against segregation and for the protection of voting rights for all citizens. Moving on to historical fiction, these three titles are also suitable for younger readers and are especially relevant in our troubled times as ordinary citizens in these books face the political and social upheavals of their generation. Beyond the Lavender Fields takes place on the eve of the French Revolution, as the two protagonists represent both sides of the conflict, the aristocracy who want to maintain the feudal system of privilege, and the workers who want to dethrone their king and create a democratic French Republic. A Brilliant Night of Stars and Ice is based on the true story of the Carpathia, one of two ships who received an urgent distress call after midnight on April 12, 1912, from RMS Titanic, and was the only ship who answered the call. It's told in alternate chapters from the perspective of the captain of the Carpathia and a young female passenger on Titanic. This is a thrilling and awe-inspiring story which paints a portrait of fear and despair from the Titanic survivors, waiting in the freezing waters, uncertain if any rescue would come, and a heroic and compassionate leader, his methodical preparations for rescue, and his determination to act honorably and selflessly to save lives and care for the survivors. The Slow March of Light is a 1961 Cold War drama. It's told from alternate perspectives: an American soldier turned spy undercover in East Germany, and a West German nurse turned spy who helps East Germans escape the horrible, oppressive police state by forging documents and escaping to the West through underground tunnels. The Paper Daughters of Chinatown is new in paperback. It's the story of Chinese women who were tricked into coming to America and led into lives of despair and prostitution in San Francisco in the 19th century. Local authorities were either corrupt or turned a blind eye, but a group of social justice activists took matters into their own hands to free these women and get them legal status in America. This is a great title to better understand the wounds of past injustices, to explain our current racial divisions. Both books were inspired by true stories. Raised in the Kitchen has become very popular with school libraries and is a cookbook for kids. It starts with the basics like baked potatoes, and as new skills are learned, the recipes advance in complexity towards kids' favorites like meals with chocolate and meals with cheese. It also includes information on how to set a table, create a shopping list, plus kitchen etiquette and safety. Finally, proper romance are clean content, so they're suitable for all ages. These are not bonnet romances. There's no inspirational content at all. There's all the longing and desire you'd want in romance, but there's no onstage sex. Our most popular series, our Proper Romance Victorian, and debuting in spring 22, is the first title in Proper Romance Edwardian era, where we leave the corseted world of Queen Victoria into the golden age of England as we enter the 20th century, full of exciting inventions like the petrol motor car, which give women a taste of freedom, which would have scandalized their mothers. Our titles are sold as ebooks to libraries on popular platforms using the purchase and circulation pricing models. Thank you, and back to Julia.
Thank you, Elise. Our final presenters today will be Melissa Bounty, Associate Publisher at Choose Your Own Adventure, Dottie Green, Marketing Manager at Choose Your Own Adventure, and Bart King, author of Time Travel In from Choose Your Own Adventure. Welcome, Melissa, Dottie, and Bart. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? I'm going to share screen. Okay. So I'm Dottie. I'm fairly new at Chooseco, started this summer, and I'm going to give you sort of an overview of what Choose Your Own Venture is for those that may not be familiar with the brand. We are an international brand. We are the owners of the interactive game book series that was brought back to life in 2006. It originated in the late 70s. R.A. Montgomery was one of the original authors who helped relaunch the series in 2006 with his wife, author, and current CEO, Shannon Gilligan. We're the 4th best-selling children's series of all time. Since its relaunch, we're sold in 115 million copies, 270 million books in print, with published in 40 languages. And we have a nostalgia brand widely recognized by the generation of parents who love them as kids. The biggest point of differentiation for the Choose Your Own Adventure books is that it's written in the second person. You are the star of the story. You get to create choices leading to multiple endings and pathways in the book. So as an example, if you were to want to join with the evil Power Master, you would turn to page 36 as a choice point. Or if you refuse, you turn to page 91. And that empowers children through the idea of choice making, which is a huge crux of the brand. The non-gender specific you character also creates an inclusionary experience, and the replay factor creates fast-paced decision-making and assists with reluctant readers. Our backlist title features 60 genres from all over the world, under the sea, fantasy worlds. Many of these were from the original classic series that were brought back in 2006 and then rebranded visually in 2011. And they are for ages 7 to 14 with multiple endings, as you can see there, from anywhere from 20 to 48 or so. The Spy series is a newer series that we have developed with historical settings, historically accurate events and characters. They also include curriculum-friendly titles, teacher's guides, and classroom materials. These can all be found in the guidebook that will be following this presentation sent by Booklist. We also have a backlist for our younger readers. I know that's not necessarily the middle grade market, but I wanted just to give a broad brushstroke of all the available backlist titles that we do have available. Everything that's being shown today is also some of our best-selling series. This fall, we did introduce 2 very different titles, and Melissa Bounty, who is our associate publisher, will take over for the rest of this part of the presentation before we get to Bart King's Time Travel In, to talk a little bit about the editorial experience associated with these 2 fall frontlets, the departure and the audience for these.
Thank you, Dottie, and thank you, everybody. I assume that there are some librarians in the crowd today, and Choose Your Own Adventure, as a very unusual book series, was brought into children's hands in the 1980s, primarily by librarians at first, because it really did need that step of someone knowledgeable explaining what these very unusual books with choices and multiple endings, and you can die at the end of the book in many places. So we have appreciated many years of love and support from librarians. And when we planned this short 2-book fall front list, I really thought of librarians in particular, because I thought we have finally taken this wonderful classic brand and bunch of lovely 100-book backlist that has supported our work and broadened it to something a little different, and where I think the classics work so well with reluctant readers and all type of readers. Both of our fall frontlist titles really expand on what the game book is and can be. And that's thanks to the 2 really wonderful writers, including Bart, who contributed to the fall front list. Both of our fall writers are original Choose Your Own Adventure fans who grew up reading these books and became writers later in life. And both Kazim Ali, the writer of Citadel of Whispers, and Bart King, Time Travel In writer, brought a wonderful writer's mind to the expansion of the game book. We met both writers through the Spies series that Dottie mentioned, and I also do recommend librarians checking those titles out. We worked with a number of really great new Choose Your Own Adventure writers, and a number of them were poets. Poets have a way of understanding nonlinear writing really well, and so we were introduced to Kazim Ali through one of our Spies writers who is a poet. And he told me that he had an unfinished manuscript about a fantasy place called Ilaria, a world he'd developed, and that he thought it would make an excellent game book. I read the manuscript, it was partial, and agreed with him, and we plotted out how to turn the story of Ilaria into a multiple ending game book. Chasm's very interested in role-playing games and tabletop games, and you will see some real transformation to the game book potential, how the choices work, how the endings fit in. You're also, you are Krishy in this title. You are a whisperer at a school, the Citadel, for whisperers who will eventually become magicians and diplomats. You're joined by your two friends, Saeed and Zara. And on the evening that begins the story, an invasion begins by the powerful Narbolin Empire, and you make decisions about where to go in this world. As I've explained it to people, it's a bit like Game of Thrones with this beautiful world building, but where Game of Thrones draws from the European background, Chasm is drawing from his own transnational upbringing throughout the Middle East, India, and other places, Asian places. So there's a lot of magical realism in this book drawn from different cultures. And we've had great reviews for the title, including an unusual review by Will Wheaton, who's known for his acting, but also for his intense interest in gaming. And I think that's what drew him to blurb for this book and give us such a positive review. Also a nice review from popular YA author Francesca Flores. And I do want to mention the poetry, the writing, and the complexity of storytelling make this a YA book, but every aspect of it is appropriate for middle grades. Chasm is an LGBTQ writer, and there are light themes of consent and LGBTQ inclusion, but there's absolutely no overt sexuality in the book. So it's very appropriate for a middle grade writer. Our next title for the fall, our second fall frontlist title, is Time Travel In by Bart King, who has kindly joined us today to talk a little bit more about his book. And both of these titles are bigger and longer than our typical classics, which are only 144 pages. And we didn't just slap extra words in here. There are extra game book experiences in both of these titles. And what I liked the most about Time Travel In was Bart's ability to create a very broad time travel universe, but also to bring these secondary characters into the game book. So in the most basic spare choose your own adventure books, you are piloting a sea craft or climbing a mountain, and it's tough to bring interesting secondary characters or character development into that almost video game-like experience. But in Time Travel In, the secondary characters play a critical storytelling role and even appear in endings in surprising ways that's never happened in Choose Your Own Adventure before. We also got really excellent reviews for Bart's book, including from Jeff Kinney, author of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and also some other wonderful writers, Tina Connolly, who's Hugo-nominated author of Seriously Wicked, and some other great writers who enjoyed early reads of Bart's title. Both of these books, as well as a lot of our backlist, are available on Edelweiss and NetGalley. And I will turn over to Bart King to talk about Time Travel In.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna talk fast. I am mindful of your time. By the way, I welcome any questions though. It'd be kind of fun for me to talk fast and monitor the open questions here. So feel free, and if I miss it, I will get back to you on it. Don't worry about derailing my train of thought basically, because the train is not on rails. I taught middle school for 15 years, and during any sustained silent reading period, there were always at least one, usually a couple, 3 kids who would bring in Choose Your Own Adventure books into class. That's how I kind of got started on these actually, because I was like, well, why are these books so interesting? And of course, part of it is the second person narration. It's a much more visceral experience, but also there's sort of an unfettered imaginative aspect to this, which I related to as a reader and then later as a writer. In fact, if I didn't mention it, I leapt at the opportunity to write one of these because these books can be really beautiful. They can have fascinating choices that really involve agency on the reader's part in making a choice. the books can also be bonkers, you know what I mean? And so it was really fun for me to, with Melissa's help, kind of see where these books could go, certainly places that I hadn't dreamed of. You know, teaching and writing a Choose Your Own Adventure or any book for a middle grade reader are similar in that you need to think about what makes a great lesson plan, you know? So as a teacher, you need engaging, meaningful material. You also need really good pacing, and I am mindful of it right now. And so that applies to the book too. Now with Choose Your Own Adventure, the lively pacing is kind of baked into the cake. You don't have time to dawdle. You need to make every page count, and you need to be knowing that you're headed for a good choice. Now that good choice could be something that ends in tragedy, or sometimes even a strangely ambivalent ending that makes sense. It can go to comedy. You can cover the spectrum basically, and I think I did. Some of the outcomes are less than auspicious. You can see there on the slide that we have something about why Trent dies so much. Trent is not a bully. He is a character in the book. He's a bully adjacent, though, I would say. And with him, I had a little fun. Maybe this is really the only dark humor in the book, perhaps, that Trent is sort of like the drummers in the movie Spinal Tap, the drummers who explode. In other words, Trent keeps meeting an interesting end in different places. Here, he thinks the dog whistle, which works in the Age of the Dinosaurs in driving dinosaurs away, will stop this particular one. This dinosaur will prove to be the exception. Actually, if you want to just go forward in the slide a couple of times, you know, yeah, that's a good one to stop on. One thing I drew upon for one of the endings was kindergartners. Now, a teacher's nightmare is having a field trip go awry. In the book, I incorporated that by having a class of kindergartners go back in time on a field trip and get stranded in the Mesozoic period. They loved it there. They didn't want to come back. And so your character has to decide, am I going to trick these kids into coming back to the present? Or they seem so happy here, am I going to leave them here? I will not do a spoiler alert because I don't have time to spoil that. We are at the end of our time, I believe. But I should stop, right? Someone jump in here. I believe we were scheduled to end at 12 and I want to respect that. Anyone?
All right, yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks so much. I will cease speaking now. It was my pleasure to speak to you. And these books are dynamite. I'm not being self-serving in saying that. I love these books. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Bart, Melissa, and Dottie. And a big thank you to today's wonderful panelists. Let me just make sure I didn't cut off a final slide there from anyone. Okay, no, here we go. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view past webinars in our archives and register for upcoming ones, like those you see here. Not yet a subscriber? Pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special webinar offer to get Booklist for only $75. Patron-friendly, librarian approved, and free with Booklist subscriptions. Booklist Reader is Booklist's new digital-only magazine highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages has arrived. To see and share the latest issue, which is currently freely available to all, visit booklistonline.com/reader-issues. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. And one more huge thank you to our panelists and our sponsors, Workman Publishing, Clarion Books, Macmillan Children's Publishing Group, Shadow Mountain Publishing, and Choose Your Own Adventure. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.